over the weekend, we also got to see this Panthers offense for the first time not look the part again, bro. It looked a lot like it did last season. Bryce Young struggled, and there's been talks about like them getting the right pieces around him. You go and you draft Leggett last year. You draft Troy McMillan this year. You get veteran presence with Adam Thielen and Hunter Renfrow. You re-sign Chuba Hubbard. You get another back in Rico Dowdle who's capable of rushing for 1,000 yards. Like, you draft a tight end. You're really trying to help your boy out. And he didn't look the part this preseason week 2. I don't know that it's time to be like, oh, we're giving up on Bryce Young or he hasn't looked the part. But you're starting to get to a point with him that we're talking about with Caleb right now. You're starting to get to a point where Bryce Young where you're like, is this guy legit? Can he get the job done? And this is a big year for Bryce Young. A lot of people are expecting strides out of him. How concerned are you with Bryce? I know we're not drafting him a whole lot in anything other than super flex leagues, but there's been talks, there's been a leap. How concerned are you with Bryce Young and like him not working out at the NFL level?
I mean, there's definitely some concern. I know that like a lot of people will point to last year towards the end of the year and say he looked much better, and he did. But also, I feel like I've seen that story played out a bunch of times where this guy looks good in a small sample size and isn't actually good, in a full season. So, I mean, there's concerns, and it's not that. So the only person that I really have any interest in this offense in general is Tet. And I find myself just going with Travis Hunter a lot more than Tet anyways. Yeah. So I don't find myself really drafting anybody from this offense. But that's not to say that I don't think that there is upside here if Bryce Young does end up taking a step. I mean, he was the first overall pick, and I know it's a preseason game. I'm not putting a lot of stock into it because I want to say the week prior he actually looked decent.
Yes.
So I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into it, but I do think this is kind of a year where it's a big year for Bryce, and he needs to show that he can take a step. But for fantasy football purposes, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in Bryce Young this year as is. But I do like Ted, and I hope that Ted can be somebody that will benefit from Bryce Young taking a step. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
The problem I have with Bryce Young is I think when it's all said and done, this dude's going to be just like he is every year, a top 20 to 25 quarterback, and probably even outplay that specific range. The problem that I have is that I think there's going to be times when this offense looks like elite, and we're like, damn, this is what we expected out of Bryce Young. And then there's going to be other times we're questioning, like, what's wrong with this offense? So I think that's the problem, is that he went first overall. There was a lot of talk about his height and his size coming into the position. So the expectation is like, you take a guy number 1, they should at some point be like a top 10 to 12 quarterback. I just don't know if Bryce Young is that at this point in his career, or if he'll ever get to that point. Mm-hmm. I think the main concern for me is like, what does this offense look like? Can they move the ball enough to support a Ted McMillan who's going top 25? Can you support a Leggett, a Adam Thielen, a John Tavian Sanders, a Hunter Renfrow, a Jalen Coker, somebody else in this offense? Chuba Hubbard, he's going RB 16-ish, 17-ish, 18-ish right now. Can this offense support that again this year? I think those are the question marks I have, because I think Bryce is going to play at a capable level. I just don't know that he makes that leap this year that everybody wants him to make, because they have these weapons around him now. So I don't know. I just see too much of a mixed bag for Bryce Young to even consider him as like a super flex QB2. If it's a format like best ball where I can get rewarded if it pays off, cool. But like in super flex, I think I would rather just take Sam Darnold later. I'd rather take Aaron Rodgers later. I'd rather take Matt Stafford going at the same rate. Tua is going at the same range. Michael Penix is going at the same range. It just, to me, there's not enough upside here to chase with Bryce Young or in this offense. And I do get concerned about the weapons, Tyler. That's the part I think that I get concerned about the most. If Bryce Young hits, now we're talking about Troy McMillan as a top 25 receiver. If he misses, do you still see that same level of output from McMillan?
Probably not. I think that it can be maybe like a back end wide receiver too, just like a lot of targets, because I'll say, I mean, we did see Adam Thielen have very solid stretches. I know it wasn't a whole year, but I would say if Tet can be, and that was also Adam Thielen towards the end of his career. So if Tet can be, you know, everything that he's hyped up to be, a 10th round, or he was 10th round pick, was it 10th or 9th or 8th? I don't remember.
I think it was 8th overall pick.
8th overall pick, or not 10th round, 8th overall pick in the NFL draft. So obviously there's big time expectations. A lot of the people, you know, highly regarded in the film industry liked him, breaking down tape and all that. They really liked him. So I think that there's wide receiver 2 potential, absolutely. And even if Bryce doesn't take that step, I still think that's out there, just because we saw Adam Thielen be honestly pretty good. So I think that that's out there. And then it just goes up if Bryce is actually really good. So I don't mind Ted. But once again, I just like Travis Hunter more.
I think the best case scenario for Bryce Young is that he does look the part. And then Ted McMillan now is a player that has wide receiver 2 upside on a weekly basis. The next part of that is, at some point in this Panthers offense, somebody else has to emerge, right? Like you talked about, Adam Thielen last year had a really nice stretch. There's been so much about like Hunter Renfrow going out about how he's looked the part and he looks ready to kind of make an impact. Jalen Coker has had a lot of rave reviews in camp. The one player we haven't really heard from is former first-round pick Xavier Legette. And that was a player that I kind of like in like this dual type role, this Deebo Samuel, Jaden Reed type role where like the offense doesn't really rely on you, but as a secondary option, I do think that Legette has some value. He's going like outside the top 50-ish receivers. And in most leagues, in your smaller leagues, 10-team and under, he's probably not being drafted. But in your other leagues, you know, we saw him get into a fight in week 1 of the preseason. We haven't really heard much about him this offseason. I'm not ready to give up on that kid yet, because I think that there's some potential from him in that offense. There was a stretch of games last year where he was playing pretty well and Bryce Young was looking his way. He's not your true prototypical X. But I think as this team, they tried to ask him to be that last year and it didn't work. But I think as this team kind of finds a role from him, it wouldn't be shocking to see him kind of take some of the workload that I think everybody's expecting McMillan to buy into. Are you out completely on Xavier Legette at his ADP right now?
Yeah, he stinks.
So, you think he stinks? You think he's just trash?
Yeah, I think it was a bad pick by this team to begin with. I don't like the prospect profile for him is very bad. Like
he only has a little harsh. It's his second year in the league.
No, because like when the players, maybe sure, but like I think that when the Panthers made the pick, it was a bad pick, and the reason being he had one good year of production when he was 23 years old, like when he's a super senior, and historically those guys don't end up being anything in the pros. Like they just don't. So for me personally, like I've never been interested on Xavier Legette. I'm not interested in Xavier Legette. I think it's Tet or Jalen Coker will be the two in this offense. And I think that there's a higher chance that a guy like Jatavian Sanders, the tight end there, breaks out or something like that than Legette does. So for me personally, yeah, I have no and maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this year I'll be eating those words. I just have no expectations for it.
JT Sanders, low key, is one of those names. I don't think he's draftable at all.
No,
you think like as the season goes on, when you're looking for like tight end options during bye weeks,
in the back of your mind.
Yep, keep that name in the back of your mind for sure.